Now in today's video, we're going to be running through my favourite hidden gems ahead of Game Week 16. All of these players are below 10% owned, so should, if they pop off, get you massive rank gains this game week. Now, of course, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 11,000 subscribers by, of course, the end of the year, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. So let's dive into some of my favourite hidden gems ahead of Game Week 16. First up is going to be a man I've been a little bit I would say cold on over the past few weeks, and obviously I put out a tweet earlier in the week as well suggesting where has this hype come from Enzo. Obviously at that point I hadn't really done any kind of digging into him, hadn't really taken a look at any of his kind of data. From an eye test perspective, thought he was kind of going for a more like Douglas Luiz vibe last year, where he was just kind of scoring outside the box shots, not really creating too much, and just kind of getting a little bit lucky with his points. Now I do still feel there's an element of that from watching some of the eye test perspectives. However, now that I've done some research, done a little bit of digging into his data and of course how he's been performing over the past 5 game weeks, and you know what? This guy's numbers for midfielders is absolutely insane. Joint 4th, I believe it is, for expected goal involvement over the past 5 weeks. He's also got 0.7 goal involvement per 90 as well over that period. He's playing consistent 90 minutes and is currently valued at £5 million. As you can see on screen as well, 3 goals, 3 assists during that period as well. So not only creating good data, is also absolutely smashing it in terms of, you know, creativity and getting the actual goals as well. That's such a big part that I think sometimes people kind of overestimate or underlook. And of course, then we have the good run of fixtures as well coming up for Chelsea. And this run doesn't just continue past game week 20. It pretty much goes all the way up until game week 27. There's a few difficult fixtures thrown in there, but overall, I do have to probably admit I've got this one probably a little bit wrong, and I think that Enzo could be a really good enabling pick over the next few weeks. Great fixtures, looks like his minutes are secure, and overall right now, he is one of the most creative players in the Premier League, and I sometimes have to hold my hands up and say I got something wrong, and I maybe think this guy going forward could be a very, very decent pickup going forward. But let me know what you think of Enzo. Have I got it wrong, or am I potentially leading on to something and we might have a hidden gem on our hands for the next few game weeks? Let me know in the comments section. Let's move on then to our next pick. It is, of course, going to be Jarrod Bowen, still under 10% owned, around 6.8% at the moment. The next 3 fixtures are, of course, delicious. Now, the reason I wanted to include Jarrod Bowen is I've watched his last 2 performances for West Ham United, and I've been extremely impressed with both of those performances. Obviously, could have come away with a double-digit haul against Leicester. Of course, got a double-digit haul in the El Sacchio against Wolves as well. So it seems like, to be honest, if Jarrod Bowen had got back-to-back hauls, he would be in a lot more people's teams. Of course, that isn't the case. Of course, people will obviously just look at the points and probably not jump on him too much. I do think the next 3 fixtures, from an attacking standpoint, are very, very delicious. Both Brighton and Southampton have been pretty poor defensively so far this season, especially Southampton as well, currently ranked the worst team for XG conceded in the Premier League as well. So that's an even, you know, a really, really delicious fixture to go for. On top of that, of course, there's the Mikel Antonio situation, and it does look like Jarrod Bowen is the preferred number 9 to start games. It looks like Fulkrug has maybe picked up another injury or isn't quite match fit again. Danny Ings doesn't seem to be the favourite striker. Obviously, Antonio out for probably a year, so that probably means that Jarrod Bowen is going to be the number 9 for some pretty decent fixtures. I don't think the Bournemouth game is going to be as easy as some people are potentially suggesting. However, both Brighton and Southampton, like I said, have really, really poor underlying data. The only problem I do think you are going to have with him, of course, is those fixtures do turn around game week 19. Liverpool and City back-to-back is not ideal for a player in Jarrod Bowen's position, and I think the hop-off points are a little bit difficult. Now, you could, of course, move to somebody like Bruno Fernandez in 19. That's definitely a possibility with United's fixtures and obviously his recent form as well. But I think it's probably going to be a little bit more of a sticky wicket. There aren't any kind of players around this price point that I'm absolutely dying to own at the moment. Gordon's not really securing his minutes despite decent fixtures coming up for Newcastle. Of course, Brian and Wemmer, the fixtures are going cold for Brentford as well, despite a pretty decent mega haul at the weekend. Bruno, yes, but do I again want to be paying that premium price when I might want Haaland back around game week 19, game week 20 as well? So that's the only thing putting me off Jarrod Bowen, but I still think he could be a decent pickup over the next few weeks if you did want to go for another potential hidden gem. Finally, let's take a look at my striker option before we move on to the defender picks. It is going to be Evanilson. Again, I've been kind of touting this guy for the past few weeks, and some people have listened, some people have picked him up. The underlying data that he is getting is pretty decent in terms of the striker options. I was actually surprised that he's so low owned considering the great fixtures that Bournemouth have got. If you look at their underlying data as well for XG created, they're actually a really prolific side of Bournemouth. Really good in front of goal, creating plenty of opportunities for their forwards as well. His minutes are very secure, so I think if you're looking for a Visser, or maybe you've had enough of João Pedro, I know some people are talking about potentially getting rid of Cunha. I personally wouldn't do that with the next two fixtures on hand. I play them, but even then, Crystal Palace, Fulham and Everton could be a decent run to obviously go and get him in for, with a very attack-minded side coming forward. So I am a real big fan of Evanilson. He was a player that I did look at, obviously going into that Ipswich game. He was one that I did want. Unfortunately, it didn't just quite work out for him in that game. I do feel like he will still be starting a lot of games over the festive run. The data's been there. Obviously, some of the goal involvements as well have been there as well. Probably been a little bit unfortunate not to have come away with more points over the past few weeks. The only problem I probably would say is, of course, Unal did score in that Ipswich game, so that potentially going forward might impact Evanilson's minute. But I still think he's a pretty decent striker option, of course, if you're in the market for a differential forward within your budget price. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at the defender picks that I'm really kind of looking forward to owning if I was, potentially in the market for a defender this week. All of these players, like I said, are under 10% owned. Let's first off start off with Munoz. He's the one that I am eyeing up as, of course, a 8 Nuri replacement. A lot of people are going to be looking for 8 Nuri replacements after the next two fixtures as well. Of course, Munoz, not a great fixture in 16 or 17 for me personally from a defensive standpoint. 18 and beyond though, Crystal Palace have a great run. As you can see on here as well, the best underlying data, expected goal involvement per 90 as well. The most goal involvements as well on this list. So really good numbers going forward for Munoz as well. And again, another player that really passes the eye test for me personally. Of course, Palace defensively this season haven't been as resolute as they have been in previous campaigns. Obviously sat 11th in expected goals conceded so far this season. You do imagine maybe with some more easier fixtures on the horizon, they might be able to turn that round and break into the top 10. But I think for Munoz, we're probably going to be looking, for me, really at more of his attacking returns rather than clean sheets. And speaking of clean sheets, I did a little bit of research. There's only been 57 clean sheets so far in the Premier League. We're 39% of the way through the Premier League campaign. Now, last season, there was 157 overall, so it looks like, if we're kind of going to go on the projections that we've seen so far, looks like there's going to be even less again this season. So that, for me, is probably a little bit of the reason why I'm probably looking at these more attacking-minded players. And as you can see on here, I would probably say everybody bar Colwell and, of course, Timber. They're kind of the more just solid kind of players that I wouldn't be really expecting an attacking return from. Everybody else on this differential list, and obviously my kind of transfer plans going forward, I think has to have an attacking threat from a defensive standpoint, because clean sheets seem to be on the way out, to be honest. It seems like there's been a little bit of a tactical revolution in the Premier League where attack is more profitable than defence, which is good from obviously an entertainment point of view, but probably not good when we are going to be maybe looking at kind of centre-backs and stuff like that in kind of course, this cheaper defensive price bracket. But yeah, Munoz, going to be one of my top picks for 8 Nuri replacements in the next few weeks. Of course, you could bring him in this week, but you're probably going to have to bench him in 17. Let's move on to Jurrien Timber. Of course, there are doubts of whether or not he is going to play tonight. I am filming this before Arsenal's Champions League game. Of course, if he doesn't play and it looks like he's out injured, then ignore absolutely everything I'm going to say. But Arsenal have got currently the top projected clean sheets on the 11-5 clean sheet model. Of course, if you want to go and check that out, I will leave a link to their amazing website in the description. They're top over the next 6 game weeks, which is great to see. And as you can see here, I would probably back them to do exceptionally well against Everton, Palace and Ipswich. Not not teams that are scoring prolifically either, so it's a great time to hop onto the Arsenal back line. Of course, Timber is the cheapest way into that back line at the moment with, you know, you could go and get Kivior, but we don't really know the extent of the Gabriel injury either. Of course, the attacking returns I probably wouldn't be expecting too much. It is probably going to be those clean sheet numbers. Like I said, Arsenal favourites over the next few weeks to go and get the most clean sheets according to the 11ify model, and their expected goals conceded so far this campaign have been really, really good, with them currently sat in second as well. Kirkez is a player that I went and brought up this week. I like the Bournemouth fixtures going forward. We saw kind of the more longer term ones as well when looking at Evanilson. Plenty of attacking threat from him, decent secure minutes as well. The second most goal involvements on this list, and surprisingly, Bournemouth sat third for XG conceded. I bet that wasn't something you were expecting as well. Again, offers that attacking threat, seems to be playing for a pretty decent defence this season as well, so no real problems with Kirkez as an option. Hall, on the other hand, Newcastle not great defensively, but as you can see, those next two fixtures are really delicious, and of course, if you can rotate him around the more difficult fixtures coming up, again at 4.4 million, could be a great budget enabler, and again, a big hidden gem. And then finally, Levi Colwill. I would probably go my list for favourites on this one is Munoz, Timber if fit and available, Kirkez, and then finally Colwill in that order. Hall probably down the bottom. But Colwill, if you are looking for a probably set and forget in that kind of cheap bracket 4.5 million zone, it is going to be Levi Colwill for me that would be the top pick that I, of course, would be looking to go for. Chelsea defensively have started to improve, 5th for XG conceded so far in the Premier League, which isn't terrible. Of course, as well, there's some great fixtures on the horizon as well. It's just one of those, like I said, though, there is a decrease in amount of clean sheets, and I do think we have to start taking that in mind. Like I said, there does seem to be a tactical shift across the whole board of the Premier League, that attack is more the focus rather than defensive kind of attributes. So I think maybe trying to find that extra 0.2 million or 0.1 million for somebody like a Kirkez or a Munoz is probably going to be more beneficial for your sides going forward. Those were my hidden gems for Game Week 16. Let me know what you think of them down in the comment section below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as we'll try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in Game Week 16.